Jenny Humphrey didn't get a fair chance at love on Gossip Girl. Part of the reason why is because the actress behind the role, Taylor Momsen, decided to part ways with the show early. There's a chance Jenny could have had her happily ever after with the right guy if the character was around for the entire series. Instead, we got to see Jenny get her heart broken over and over again by a small handful of guys who simply weren't right for her at all. Every romantic connection Jenny had on Gossip Girl was toxic AF and out of control. Here's a ranking of her love interests from worst to best. Damen Dalgard. Damen Dalgard is easily Jenny's worst possible love interest from her entire time on Gossip Girl. He was a terrible boyfriend to her because at first, he acted totally uninterested in her as if he wasn't attracted to her at all. Then, he enlisted her help to sell drugs, which could have ruined her entire future. To make matters worse, he tried to pressure her to have sex with him before she was ready. He didn't try to make it romantic or special. He told her having sex with him was a non-negotiable. Jenny's entire relationship with Damen was a hot mess, and he never had her best interest at heart. Max was the creepy photographer who tried to take nude pictures of Jenny while she was hanging out with Agnes Andrews, who was a terrible influence on her. Max was clearly super attracted to Jenny because he did his best to convince her to take off her clothes as he continued snapping more photos of her. The situation Jenny was in with Max and Agnes would have almost definitely turned into a sleazy threesome if Nate hadn't burst in to rescue her, and Max was the creep who was spearheading it. Chuck Bass. Jenny's one-night stand with Chuck was probably the worst decision she could have made. She and Chuck were both feeling super lonely, so they turned to each other for comfort, but it was a terrible mistake. On Chuck's end, he felt like Blair Waldorf had rejected him because she didn't show up to the Empire State Building for his proposal. When he learned that Blair was only running late because she was with Dorota, who had just gone into labor, he quickly realized he messed up by sleeping with Jenny. Jenny got banished from Manhattan by Blair because of this. The craziest part of all is that she actually swiped her V-card with Chuck on that particular evening. The pervert from the Bachelor Party. When Jenny was being sabotaged by evil model Agnes Andrews, she ended up in a terrifying situation. Agnes drugged her and left her with a group of guys who were celebrating a bachelor party. One of the perverts in the group showed a special interest in Jenny, even though she couldn't walk or physically pick herself up. The perv was never given a name on the show, but if it was up to him, he would have scooped Jenny up, taken her back to his hotel, and had his way with her while she was barely conscious. Fortunately for Jenny, Nate was there to save her from that terrible outcome. This guy does not count as a love interest because it would not have been consensual, but he was someone who definitely wanted Jenny. Asher Hornsby. Asher Hornsby was another horrendous love interest for Jenny on Gossip Girl. He was secretly gay, so he never actually liked Jenny in the first place. The entire time he dated her, he was using her to cover up his sexual orientation because he didn't want the world to know that he truly liked guys. He convinced Jenny to tell everyone that she lost her virginity to him, even though it was the furthest thing from the truth. The way he spoke to her was rude and condescending as well. He was just the worst. Vander Woodson. Eric hardly counts as a love interest to Jenny since he was gay the entire time and never actually had an interest in her. But for a hot second there, Jenny was thoroughly convinced that Eric had a crush on her. From the perspective of Gossip Girl viewers, it did actually seem like Eric had a crush on her since the two of them connected on a deeper level as the younger siblings of Dan Humphrey and Serena Vander Woodson. They hung out as best friends and were extremely tight-knit, so when Jenny accused him of having a crush on her, it made a lot of sense. Eric quickly shut that down though, since he always knew he was part of the LGBTQ community. Nate Archibald. Nate Archibald is really the only love interest Jenny had who treated her with a modicum of respect. Unfortunately for Jenny, he had lingering feelings for other girls that always seemed to be stronger than the feelings he had for her. At one point, he was more inclined to go after Vanessa Abrams. At another point, he was more inclined to go after Serena Vander Woodson. Either way, Jenny always seemed to get the short end of the stick. She truly wanted to have her happily ever after with Nate because he actually showed her support, respect, and love while they were on good terms with each other. What do you think of all of Jenny Humphrey's boyfriends, hookups, and sexual connections on Gossip Girl? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below.